Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. Also on podcasts everywhere, Facebook and YouTube. You can also search for previous episodes on www.talklawradio.com. And if you have questions but didn't want to call in, you can always email me at host@talklawradio.com. That's HOS as in Sam, T as in Timothy, at talklawradio.com. Here with Joseph Warren, who works for Financial
Planning HQ.
I don't know why I can't remember that. Financial Planning HQ. And he does financial planning for people. But in our fourth segment, we're going to talk about legacy.
And now, it's time for the Talk Law Radio Legacy Spotlight. What's your legacy? Sponsored by Marquardt Law Firm.
So this morning I was watching YouTube, and I was watching just a clip about God is for you, who can be against you? And they quoted 2 Corinthians 4, verse 7 to 12. And it sort of captured the mood of the community. There were words like afflicted, perplexed, persecuted. And but in those same verses, it reminded me that even though we're afflicted, perplexed, and persecuted, we won't be crushed. We won't be driven to despair. We won't be forsaken. We won't be destroyed. My mom would always say, not to worry. She was always encouraging us not to worry. And so I'd like for those in my life to remember that I would say, the Lord will provide. You know, even in those times when I didn't know where my groceries were going to come from, I would tell my wife, the Lord will provide. And he always did. We always had groceries.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are your thoughts on legacy?
On legacy. I think my main thoughts right now, don't have any kids yet, just recently got married, but it's such an important thing to think about while you can with a sound mind. That's the way I like to think about it. And for me personally, I think it's good to give people money, inheritance, things like that. But I think the main legacy is how you impacted them. So I always tell people, like, your kids may not listen to what you say, but they're watching what you're doing. And the way you live your life, you know, if you live a life of integrity, you know, if you're living to glorify God with everything you do, they're going to take some aspect of that when they're your age or when they're raising their kids. And I think that's like the ultimate legacy, is the inspiration or the impact that you have on those you love and those around you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So besides your grandmother that used to hide things, anybody else in your family that impacted you the way that you hope to impact others?
Yeah. I had another grandmother on my father's side, and she just taught me kindness, I think. Just like, she was always so sweet, always so kind. And I know you're always like that with your grandkids. Yeah. Right. But just such a level of patience with me, even when I, didn't deserve it. Even when I was being, I guess, kind of being like teenager. Like, I remember once I kicked a soccer ball and I accidentally hit her in the face, and I could tell she was mad. And I felt so bad. But she calmed herself down and was like, just go inside. And I was like, there is that level of patience and kindness that I think is something that sticks with me when I feel like I'm being tested or, I might want to get angry and things like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, grandmothers are the best.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our legacy segment. Let's go back to what are some takeaways from learning about money and banks and the FDIC today? Before you answer that question, I wanted to say the Banking Act of 1933 created the FDIC. And so that the Banking Act of 1933 was signed by President Franklin Roosevelt. So that's how far back the FDIC goes, and it was created to give the people, U.S. citizens, more comfort about the banking system.
Yeah.
Because in 29, that's when the Great Depression started.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy how far back everything is connected, right?
Mhm.
Because right then you had the Great Depression. Banks were failing like crazy back then. Like hundreds of banks were failing. So they're like, okay, well, let's do the FDIC. And bank failures still happen. I mean, they're a thing that happen. Even during good economies, banks are making bad decisions and failing.
Mhm.
So it does add a layer of protection. I'm glad it's there. It's less of a wild west with the FDIC insurance and
Yeah.
NCUA for credit unions. Yeah.
Yeah, but some people would say if it's a bad bank, let them fail,
Yeah.
and then let the market correct itself.
I'm personally, so I'm not saying speaking for my company or anything, I believe that's what is necessary so that they can learn lessons. Because you kind of teach the wrong lessons when you're like, you can make all these bad investments and we're going to help you to save face and everyone's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, or you can put over 250,000. Like that type of thing should be something everybody knows. And they should, in my opinion, learn from that, never do it again, never put more than 250,000 per an owner, per a bank. That would be the main takeaway.
Yeah, well, something I learned from you today is that other financial services companies, investment companies, brokerage companies have different rules that might be better suited for banks.
Yeah, they have to hold it separately. I think that would be interesting. And there's actually some good money market funds, like SPAXX is one. I think it's a Fidelity fund, and it's paying 4.25% over the past 7 days. It's cash.
So what are some other lessons just generally that people can take away from this whole situation?
I think the main thing would be understanding the writing on the wall of where we are economically with rising interest rates. So banks can do that and change their investments, but we can also do that and see like, hey, there's opportunities out there to get safe yield on my cash, my money. And just looking at your cash portion of your finances as just like not an investment, but something that you want to protect and be a good steward of and earn interest on it if you can. And kind of, have it logically set up. So I have my emergency fund in a safe bank that I trust under the limits, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have some T-bills and things like that, some ladders for money I know I'm not going to touch that are making me good interest. Even in my investment accounts, I have some cash that I know is making me some good interest. So I would say just being a good steward of your money, staying under those limits, being careful where you bank and how your money is allocated. So you're not exposing yourself to risk where you might be at the whim of the government or politics or the economy, like I was talking about. If you make those good decisions, you set yourself up for success down the road.
Yeah. Well, my father-in-law was telling me that, the Bible says not to worry.
Mm-hmm.
Says the Lord even takes care of the birds.
Yeah.
And so he'll take care of you. But then he also said, don't put your head in the sand. Do some things to make your situation better.
Mm-hmm.
He says if the economy gets worse, those who are not in debt will probably fare better than those who are.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that, so it would be better not to be in debt than... Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about those treasury bills. Well, 4.5% is high compared to 0, but if you compare it to the inflation rate, if it's still 7 or 8%, you're still not keeping up with inflation.
Yep.
So if you have time, it probably makes sense to be invested in something that has the potential for getting more.
Yep. Even that's good stewardship is how do I allocate my money? How risky is it going to be? And am I investing in companies and investments that I believe in for the long term? I like the Warren Buffett approach, like 120 years from now, will my grandkids be able to enjoy this investment? That's the kind of thinking I like to think when it comes to investments.
Companies that are stable and provide something that everybody's always going to need.
Yep.
When I don't know, a few years ago, I thought it would be fun to teach my kids about investing.
Yes.
So I opened up an online account just so that I could control things. And I let each member of the family pick something that they wanted to invest in. And my daughter, she said, my teacher at school says that babies will always be born and people will always die. And so we looked for companies that fit that bill, and Procter and Gamble makes diapers.
Yeah.
So we figured that would be good for her. My sons were a little more daring. One chose Dropbox because he heard about something in the news, and the other one picked some unknown company, a smaller company, that was in pharmaceuticals and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And it went up for a little, and then you can just see the graph straight down.
Those are crazy. They are real fast.
Yeah, and so when there was a meeting for shareholders, he was reading their news and trying to figure out, what are they doing over there that's causing their stock to crash? And I said, welcome to the world of investments.
Yeah, those are good lessons to have so early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that also killed the mood. Like, I don't want to put money into these companies if they're just going to lose value.
Yeah. I think that's part of it, is like that feedback too, like learning from your mistakes. So you come back better the next time with any investment. Because I think anyone who's in the arena making investments and stuff like that, you're going to make mistakes sometimes. But,
so will you talk again about your unique approach to helping people with their finances?
Yeah. Comprehensive financial planning. I like to say that's the only thing we're selling. So you're paying for objective advice, accountability throughout the year to achieve your goals, to achieve what you said you wanted to achieve, and just oversight and attention to make sure that happens. And we coordinate, taxes, legal. So we work with experts like you. Same with taxes. We'll work with CPAs to make sure we're doing everything we can to create a strategy to minimize taxes, especially for business owners. Goal planning to make sure you're on track for your goals. Insurance planning, working with experts like Larissa, who's here. Shout out to her, Larissa Flores at New York Life, and to make sure that everything's protected. And I always forget one, but there's investments as well. So making sure your investments are set up exactly as they should be for the times that we're in, but also for your personal economy, your risk, and so that you're being a good steward of your money, and it's going to grow, beat inflation, and help you achieve your goals.
Yeah, that's all the science behind it. But you haven't talked about how you people realize their vision.
That is an interesting question. We don't call it that, but it's actually a values conversation that we start with. What's important to you? And we just dig deeper, and we'll find things like, I want to leave the world a better place. I want to be a steward of the money that God left me. Many, many high-level things. I want to inspire my grandkids, leave the next generation better than me. But we ask people those questions at the beginning, and often they're surprised because it's not a question that very frequently asked in the financial world.
Yeah. So you're helping people discover their legacy.
It's that motivation. Like, this is the reason why.
Okay, we got to take a break.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Each week, attorney Todd Marquardt talks about the law. His mission with the Talk Law Radio show and podcast is to help you discover your legal issue blind spots. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then came the 10 Commandments. Now we have federal, state, and municipal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws. Laws that might impact you without you knowing it. Listen to the show and drop a line on Facebook or email host@talklawradio.com and let the host know what you think of the show, the topics you want to hear, and whether you want to be a guest.